In the next few minutes, I'm gonna show you exactly how anybody can go from 0 to 100K per month on YouTube in the next 30 days, regardless of what kind of online business you currently have. Because I'm gonna reveal the exact client acquisition system that I have developed to generate my clients over $20 million on YouTube. And as I said, this works whether you have a service-based business, consulting offer, an info offer, or frankly, any type of online business. So how does all of this actually work? And how do you actually make YouTube a reliable and predictable client acquisition system without needing millions and millions of views? Well, it all actually hinges on a rule that Google discovered years ago and an invisible recession that frankly, you probably haven't even heard of. And we'll get to that in a bit. But first, let me tell you the exact 3 steps of this $20 million acquisition system. Step 1, you have to dial in your offer. Because to be honest, if your offer isn't completely dialed, doesn't matter how many views you get, doesn't matter how intent your viewers are, they're just not gonna convert. Because the very foundation of this is having a good offer. And that's why with every single client that we ever take on, the very first thing we do in our onboarding is actually audit their offer. Number 2, leverage the OVS method to get enough views. Now I'm not talking millions, but you're gonna need more than 50. And that's exactly why I developed the OVS framework, which allows literally anybody to get views on YouTube predictably and repeatably. And the 3rd step is to actually indoctrinate your viewers and really convert them from regular viewers into high intent paying customers. And we do that through something that I call value videos. Now, the name here is honestly arbitrary, but I'll tell you exactly how those work later in the video. So if you want me to just install this entire system into your business to literally guarantee that you make money with it, then click the link below to apply. Now, to be completely honest, without these principles, it has almost never been more difficult to scale any sort of online offer. Because a few years ago, you could kind of just rent a Lambo and film a bunch of lifestyle content, inspirational, motivational TikToks, what have you, and be the sort of dancing monkey on camera just to get a ton of views, and some way, somehow, that would trickle down into sales. But those days, my friend, are long gone. And now you have to actually know what you're talking about in order to be able to convert people. Now, why is that? Well, it all hinges on the invisible recession that I mentioned earlier and Google's rule as to how you can overcome it. Let me actually explain that point before I show you how to implement this system in your business. Because the biggest reason as to why it is so difficult to acquire customers right now is because of what I call the trust recession. You see, over the last few years, trust, really in general, has entirely plummeted in society. And it is no different when it comes to business. In fact, 70% of people think that business leaders actively mislead them, meaning 70% of people probably distrust you if you are an online business owner. Now, what's worse is that ad costs have gone exponentially higher. In fact, just last year, ad costs rose by over 25%. And I mean, it's long been established that customer acquisition costs are also just going through the roof. And that too is because of the trust recession. Because as it turns out, 61% of people do not trust any form of paid advertising that they see. But there is a way to combat this. In fact, there is actually a platform that doesn't kill trust, it actually creates it. And that's why the users of this platform trust the recommendations that they get on it 98% more than that of any other platform. And of course, I'm talking about the platform of YouTube. So why is YouTube so good at literally creating trust out of thin air? Well, that is where Google's 7-11-4 rule comes in handy. You see, Google discovered many years ago that in order for someone to have the requisite level of trust in order to want to actually buy from you, they have to consume 7 hours of your content across 11 touch points and 4 channels. Now, let me ask you, how many reels do you think somebody would have to watch of yours in order to get to that 7-hour threshold? How many TikToks? How many YouTube shorts? Well, the answer is it's probably never gonna happen unless you go massively viral. And frankly, if you want to be a dancing monkey on camera and pray to the virality gods that maybe you'll be super viral, then by all means. I personally and my clients, we like to have a repeatable and predictable system that we can plug into any business where we get enough views, but we don't have to go viral. Now, that's not to say we can't go viral. I've generated over 50 million long form views and probably somewhere in the 100 million range short form views. But the truth is that is not what we want to do, because our goal here is to get customers, not to get famous. Now, why does someone actually have to consume 7 hours of your content? Well, the reason is simple. When someone spends that much time with you as a business owner, they implicitly begin to trust you, simply by virtue of the fact that they've spent so much time with you. Because what happens when somebody watches you on YouTube is that it creates a parasocial relationship between yourself and the viewer, wherein the viewer feels like they know you on a personal level. And that is precisely why YouTube is so powerful. Now, with that out of the way, let me explain exactly how step 1 of this $20 million system actually works, because it all hinges on your offer. So that begs the question, what actually makes for a good versus bad offer? Well, to be honest, this also is not rocket science. In fact, it's very, very simple. You see, an offer breaks down into 4 key elements. The first is the outcome. What are you actually promising people? The second is the time frame. How long will it take someone to actually get there? The third is the unique mechanism. How is your way different? What actually is your way? Why should someone listen to your way as opposed to any other way to get to the same outcome? And fourth, there must be an element of risk reversal. Now, put those together and you have a good offer. So let me just give you an example. Let's say you're a high ticket sales coach, for example. Well, then a bad version of your offer would be, I help people get into high ticket sales. Doesn't give enough context, doesn't have a unique mechanism, pretty much means nothing. Now let's actually revamp that and let's focus on the outcome, the time frame, the unique mechanism, and the risk reversal. So then you would say, I help 9-to-5ers make $5,000 to $10,000 per month with high ticket sales in 30 days using the XYZ method. Maybe it's the AI job placement method, for example, or you don't pay. All of a sudden, that is a much more compelling offer. Now let's do the same thing. Let's use a client of mine as an example. Let's say you have a barbering offer. Well, then a bad version of this offer would be, I help barbers make more money through social media. Very generic, doesn't mean much, isn't particularly enticing, and it's very easy to say no to. Now we revamp that offer, so it reads something like, I help barbers make an extra $10,000 in the next 3 months using the Instagram method, or you don't pay. All of a sudden, the risk reversal makes it a lot easier to say yes to the offer because there's no downside risk. The unique mechanism instills more trust in you because you have a way that other people do not. The time frame makes the outcome more tangible, and of course, the outcome has to be specific so that we all know what we're actually working towards. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to step 2, which is actually leveraging what I call the OVS method in order to get enough views. Now, enough doesn't mean millions, it doesn't mean hundreds of thousands. We just need to get 100 to a couple thousand views if we want to make substantial money on YouTube. Now, what is the OVS method? Well, the OVS method stands for the Outlier Video Strategy. And it's a method that my partner and I came up with in order to repeatedly get enough views on YouTube. So let me tell you exactly how it works. So let me explain what the concept of an outlier actually means on YouTube. As a matter of fact, we can pop up some examples of outliers right here across the screen. In fact, I might even make a video separately going through exactly how to find outliers and just show you live what my process is in locating them and repackaging them. But before we get to that, let me just explain the bare bones of this. Effectively, on YouTube, there are certain concepts, certain video types that do disproportionately well. Our goal is to identify those YouTube packages, we call them, the package being the title and thumbnail and idea underpinning the video, identifying those packages and then repackaging them into our niche, whatever that niche may be. So how do you look for them? Well, there's no real easy answer here. You literally just have to go on YouTube and search for them. The best way to do that is to download a Chrome extension called vidIQ, which will tell you the outlier score. Now, the outlier score is the multiple with which a video has outperformed that channel's average view count. So if your channel gets on average 1,000 views per video, and then you get 10,000 views on one video, that is a 10x outlier. And you can have outlier scores that even exceed 100x. Now, the goal here is, as I said, to identify these concepts and repackage them. So how do you find them? You literally, unfortunately, just scroll through YouTube until you find them. Now, that doesn't typically take very long because these concepts, these outliers pave their way through the YouTube algorithm and people start to pick them up. That is why you might see 5 channels post effectively the same video across different niches. Now, let me just give you some typical examples. because there are a handful of outliers that have just worked really well in the last number of years. Although typically outliers have a shorter lifespan, and you kind of just have to hop onto the trend early. In fact, that's probably the main thing that we help clients with, is we actually identify these outliers as early as humanly possible and then tell them exactly how to apply them to their niche. In fact, let me show you a couple of screenshots right now of some of our clients whom we did this for. If you look at Nathan's video right here, we used a very, very good outlier. So for Nathan, this was a 21x outlier. And then we used that exact same title with another client of ours, and lo and behold, they got a 1 out of 10 performing video, meaning the video is the best performing video they have posted of the last 10. And what was that title format? I am X age. If you are Y age or Z age, watch this video. Or please watch this, or some other version thereof. So that's just one example of an outlier concept. Now, the other outlier format that worked particularly well for a handful of our clients, including our client Wade, is as follows: how to become X so easily that it feels illegal. In Wade's case, it was how to become so productive it feels illegal. That, quote, "it feels illegal" concept has worked particularly well across the YouTube algorithm. And you can see this ended up being an 80x outlier on Wade's channel, and it is literally his best performing video to date. Now, what's particularly interesting is Wade actually recorded and posted this video before we started working with him. And you can see that the original trend line for this video isn't particularly impressive. But then what happened is we came in and we changed the title using the OVS method, and that is exactly when the video began to perform. As you can see, there is a market inflection point at which the blue line goes way up and then continues going parabolic. And that is why this was an 80x outlier on Wade's channel. And by the way, the OVS method works for literally any niche, because we use the exact same principles for another client of ours who is a pro golfer. And we found an outlier concept, repackaged it to his golf niche, and lo and behold, it became a 100x outlier and the best performing video on his channel. And we'll pop up the screenshot of that on screen as well. And again, you can see just how tall that blue line is in comparison to the gray line at the bottom, which you can barely even see, which is the average number of views he would typically get on any one of his videos. So now that you understand how the OVS method works, let me explain why it's so important. You see, all of this hinges on the concept that we view your YouTube channel as your entire sales funnel. Now, what does that actually mean? It means that we need 3 types of videos, and the OVS method provides us with the first kind of video, which is a top of funnel video. That means our goal here is actually to get an outsized number of views, but that number doesn't have to be in the millions, nor does it have to be in the hundreds of thousands. It just has to be more than your average, because the goal here is to add people to the top of your funnel. We want to reach a new audience, we want to get new eyeballs, and we want to add them into the funnel so that we can then indoctrinate them later. Now, once we have those people at the top of funnel, we then want to indoctrinate them and silo them down and funnel them down to the middle of funnel. And now we get to step 3 of this client acquisition system. Because once we have enough viewers in our top of funnel, now it's time to actually indoctrinate them. And the way in which we do that is through something that I call value videos. Now, value videos are precisely what you would suspect given the name. These are videos that actually demonstrate your ability to convey value. This is where people see that you actually know what you're talking about, and you're not just some random guy on the internet who's never done what he actually claims to have done. And frankly, you just have to give value. You have to actually drop your sauce. You have to share whatever it is that you want to share, whether that's how to swing harder, like our client Leopoldo, whether that's how to be more productive, like our client Wade, or whether that is how to make more money with XYZ vehicle, whether it's high ticket sales, Airbnb co-hosting, Airbnb arbitrage, whatever it is. We have clients in all of these niches, and this works across all niches. And that's the thing. People think that YouTube is this ever-changing monster that, oh, now this is in vogue in the algorithm. Now the zeitgeist is this. And whilst all of those things are true, there is another thing that is abundantly true, and that is the fact that all of the new formats you see, they all still hinge on the same principles. And that is why this client acquisition system is built off literally first principles. Because this worked 5 years ago, and this will work in 5 years. Because irrespective of the format of the YouTube video, you still need to accomplish the same thing. You still need to instill prerequisite beliefs in people so that they want to buy from you. And value videos are exactly where we do that. Now, with that being said, you can't just post yourself yapping for 30 minutes and hope for the best. There is still a format. There is a method to this madness. And that's precisely what I'm about to share with you right now. You see, the performance of any YouTube video hinges on three things. The first is the idea. If your idea sucks, your video is gonna suck. And there's not much we can do about that. Now, bar that, there are two metrics that we have to look at and we have to optimize for. Number one is click-through rate. This is the frequency with which somebody clicks your video when they see it on the Explore page. The second is AVD, average view duration. How long does the average viewer actually watch your video? Now, the higher that number is, the better. Because the longer someone spends on the platform of YouTube, the more money YouTube makes. The more money YouTube makes, the more they're gonna push your video forward. So how do you optimize for each of those metrics? Let me tell you right now. You see, CTR breaks down into your title and your thumbnail. Now, the title has to follow what I call a tripartite title structure. Now, the main difference between top of funnel outlier videos and middle of funnel value videos are that the outlier videos follow a specific titling format that has been proven to work. Whereas in value videos, you're simply speaking directly to your ICP. But that doesn't mean you can title it something random like how to make money with the Airbnb arbitrage. We still have to follow a system. And that system is the tripartite title structure. Now, honestly, I should tack on a fourth leg to that tripartite analysis because another thing that is super, super important is that every title you have should have implicit or explicit authority. Because when you have a small channel, small meaning under 1 million subscribers, you constantly have to fight for attention and you constantly have to fight for that credibility. That is why you want to add a level of authority in your titles. Now, typically that's going to come down to either money or years of experience. Now, what's the rest of this tripartite title structure? Actionability, novelty, and controversiality. The actionability is easy. You just have to actually tell people what they're gonna get out of watching the video. The novelty is more difficult. Here you have two options. Either you leverage your unique mechanism or you leverage a new phraseology of your title. Example, a little bit ago, the parentheses just copy me format was doing very well. So that would be an example of a novel phraseology. And then the third aspect is controversiality. You have to be somewhat controversial. Now, I don't want you to confuse this with arbitrary clickbaiting because that's not what this is, but you do have to be controversial. Now, that could be implicit or explicit. Maybe a title could be how I made $1,297 yapping for 17 minutes. That is controversial because it is counterintuitive. In fact, that would be a great title if you are a high ticket sales coach. Now, anyway, I don't want to spend too much time talking about how to title videos because frankly, that could be an entirely separate video in and of itself. But the next part of CTR and optimizing for it is thumbnails. Now, the role of a thumbnail is simple. The thumbnail simply has to be complementary. It has to add a new layer of information to your video. So I'm going to show you two examples on screen here. And you'll notice that one example simply regurgitates what the title says, whereas the second actually adds a new level of information. And we'll circle and underline exactly what those are. Now, if you want to make a separate video on exactly how to title and how to thumbnail, then let me know in the comments below and I'm very happy to do that. Anyway, now that you know how to package these value videos, the next thing you need to know is how to structure them. Because every single YouTube video has to follow the same structure, and that is as follows: hook, intro, promise, CTA, value. Now, the hook is rudimentary. It's exactly what you'd expect. You just want to hook people in. Now, what I call the promise is effectively like the thesis statement of your video. And this is where most people go wrong. Because most people have this weird convoluted notion that you want to build mystery, you want to build intrigue on YouTube, you want to just hide everything that's to come, and you want to create this sort of Agatha Christie style mystery novel. And that just could not be further from the truth. In fact, you need to do the exact opposite. You need to tell people exactly what they're going to get out of the video, just like I did in this video. I told you at the outset of this video that there are 3 steps to this $20 million system. Step 1 is fixing your offer. Step 2 is leveraging the OVS method. And step 3 is indoctrinating people through value videos. I told you that at the outset of this video, and that is precisely what you need to do at the outset of yours. Now, when I say intro, what I mean is that you need to actually show your claim to fame. Why should somebody listen to you? Why have you done anything of significance? You need to say that off rip. Otherwise, people aren't going to want to listen to you. So you need to present that authority. You need to be a little bit ostentatious, to be honest, and you need to actually flex your accolades. What have you done that is noteworthy? Why do you know whatever it is that you're talking about? You need to say that at the outset of your video. Now, once you have done those three things, once you have the hook, the promise, and the intro, now you have to CTA, because the goal here is to make money. The goal here is to use this as a customer acquisition system that is repeatable and predictable. That means you have to actually have a call to action. Now, most people would conventionally say, hey, have your call to action halfway through the video, maybe towards the end of the video. You don't want to piss people off. You don't want to CTA too early. Now, that is great advice if you're getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views, because at that point, you don't want to piss people off and you really want to protect your brand. Now, the good thing with having a small micro niche channel is that you don't need to worry about that, because nobody's going to get pissed off if you CTA in one sentence within the first 60 seconds of your video. Now, the key here is that the CTA should literally be one sentence. It should be, if you want me to help you get X outcome using Y vehicle, guaranteed, then click the link below to apply. The reason why we want to have it so early in the video is because when you get a small number of views, you want to maximize the number of people that actually know you have an offer. Because people might love your content and they might really benefit from it, but if they don't know that you can help them in a meaningful capacity, well then how could they possibly buy from you? And that is why we want to have the CTA, ideally within the first 60 to 90 seconds of your video. And once you have done those four things, now you can actually delve into the value section and present whatever it is that you want to present. And that, my friend, is the third and final step of the $20 million YouTube client acquisition system. And with that, I will see you in the next one.